Welcome back to the National Road Series live stream after a very successful tour of Gippsland, and we thank you for your support. We're here for the 2017 Spirit of Tasmania Tour of Tasmania. 101 riders took the start line on Monday, but only 80 riders will take the start line today. And of those 80 riders, there's only a very select group that can win this bike race now. The top six, obviously our leader overnight is James Whelan, and he's taken control of the race. But behind him, there's some riders that can really attack the race. Mordaunt, Lyons, Talbot, Evans and Sunderland, they're the 5 riders under a minute, and they have a chance to still win this bike race. The young rider jersey, James Whelan, well, the 2 riders behind him, Mordaunt and Lyons, they're going to be chasing that jersey. Peter Livingston from Mobius Future Racing, they were in this position at Tour of Gippsland where they were leading the sprint classification going into the final stage and unfortunately lost it. Will they learn from that or not? We'll find out later on, but there's a lot of riders that can push for that jersey. The hill climb classification, well, James Whelan, he's got that sealed up. No climbs today. Most aggressive rider yesterday, James Whelan. Again, he was just magnificent. And the team's classification is all but sewn up for Mobius Future Racing. Join us in about a couple of seconds' time on the start line.
I'll grab a few people I know. We'll mark out some places to go. There's no invitation, just a destination, and that's the best freedom I know. Jump in the Jayco. Jump in the Jayco. Yeah, that's the best freedom I know.
And here we are in Devonport, and it's a beautiful day for the Talking Tasmania. Stage 4 of the 2017 Tour of Tasmania. Well, the riders are eager and on the start line, although they're not that far from starting off. Well, the competitions that are up for grabs today, obviously the leader's jersey. It is James Whelan. Well, he's been absolutely phenomenal all week, and yesterday he put his stamp on the race well and truly, and he is leading 4 of the classifications. It's an incredible effort, really, and he's doing it all as an individual. There's 80 riders on the start line, and they're getting ready for these 30 laps. They won't be long from starting. The riders that are going to be trying to catch James Whelan on general classification will be his teammate for next year, Lionel Mordaunt. What a ride from this young rider as well from the Informed Tonelli racing team. He's just 17 seconds Australian. He might slip into the early move and try and get a few seconds time bonus on one of the 2 intermediate sprints that are on offer today. Speaking of intermediate sprints, that competition, well, there is plenty that can change there because it's very, very tight. It's the team Mobius Future Racing that leads the classification. And, well, they led the classification on the final day at the Tour of Gippsland also. But unfortunately, they didn't hold on. Peter Livingston from Mobius Future Racing is the leader of the sprint classification. He leads by only 1 point to Liam Magennis, who will be looking to get on the aggressive early on, I would suggest, and chase those early points. Ryan Kavanagh, his teammate, he's in third, just another 2 points behind with 6 points. So there is an awfully big chance that this jersey can change hands today. It would be terrible for the team of Mobius Future Racing because I know they weren't happy about losing the jersey on the final day at Tour of Gippsland. So we'll see if they learn from that as the riders take the start in the yellow jersey, already positioned right up there at the front. That's James Whelan. He had a brilliant performance, although many wouldn't know, he had a brilliant performance at the Melbourne Warrnambool earlier this year where he factored in the early breakaway. But unfortunately, his young legs couldn't go the distance and he fell away when the breakaway was caught. But it was a great ride, and I saw his efforts well and truly on display during that race earlier this year. Well, this is an interesting course, and I can let you know, although the weather is good, so that will be an assistance for James Whelan to keep it together. However, there is the chance that a breakaway can get away and take a decent gap. And as we can see, it's already rider from the New South Wales Institute of Sport team going off the front here. And I would expect this to be the order of the day, with them having riders so close on the general classification with Dylan Sunderland. 57 seconds. 52nd seconds, I believe a minute gap can be brought back today, but it's going to have to be an incredibly hard race. The yellow jersey of James Whelan, he's exposed. He is in the race on his own, although I would expect there to be assistance from his team for next year in the Informed Tonelli racing team. They've been fantastic this year. They claimed their first National Road Series stage victory at the Tour of Gippsland, right on the final stage. Well, you only have to do it during the Tour, and it was a great win by Sasha Bondarenko-Edwards. Mind you, there was a couple of great victories at the Tour of Gippsland just 10 days ago. But we're here for the Tour of Tasmania, and it's a great pleasure I bring you this live stream. Once again, we return the action to you. So put some comments below and let us know your predictions for the race, breakaway or sprint. We always have a bit of fun guessing how that's going to turn out. I'm going to already say that it'll be a bunch kick, but we'll see what happens with this aggression already from the N-Swiss team. Looks like it is Liam Magennis that is off the front, and he'll be chasing that sprint jersey after missing out at the Tour of Gippsland. He stayed home for that race, so we'll see what he can do today. That first lap, 2 minutes 15, really quick first lap. This course is pretty free-flowing, but it's open to the wind. And we can already see that Magennis is opening up rather good gap here. We'll wait to see who will take on the chase. You'll see continuous attacks off the front. Liam Magennis, and it was Sasha Bondarenko-Edwards, and then Brendan Davids that led through the peloton. Brendan Davids has been saying he hasn't felt too good this week, the Oliver's Racing Real Foods rider. He said he's feeling the fatigue of the long season, and well, that can be understood because it is tough going when you've got a full season under the belt, and then you've got to come race at a race like the Tour of Tasmania that has all of the challenges, not only of the terrain, but also of the wind, and including in all of that, also the fact that the riders come here so well prepared for this final race of the National Road Series. It's going to be interesting to see who can take out this stage today. Hot this week has been Nick White. I've been very proud of his efforts, also from the Oliver's Real Foods team. 2 podiums this week. And a great ride, actually, up Grindelwald, which was a 1-2 victory, in fact, for the Mobius Future Racing. And that was Peter Livingston. That's how he sort of stamped his authority on the race. But unfortunately, the jersey was lost the following day. Angus Lyons, his teammate, finished in second on the stage, with Nick White coming home in third, winning the bunch sprint on stage 1 up Grindelwald. It's now in Mobius Future's Racing best interest to bring back this rider, Liam Magennis, who's off the front, because if they do not, they're going to lose this sprint classification jersey. I'm not sure that it's in... I'm not too sure really how Peter Livingston will sprint if it is the bunch together. So they may need to force a group off the front that doesn't already have points. So we still see James Whelan. He's well and truly sitting up there at the front. That's a good place to be. It's a safe place to be, and is going to be a very tired boy after this tour, I think.
Okay, yeah. One of the best spots we stayed overnight was a little place at Hamilton. It was just a little...
Well, it's going to be a great story if he can do it, because once unheard of. But saw him racing at the Melbourne Warrnambool earlier this year. He did a feature ride, guest ride for the Pats Veg Drapac team, and I went up to their director sportif on the day, Mark O'Brien, and asked him what he thought of this young guy and what his capabilities was. I didn't know a lot about him. He lives in Melbourne. I know Nick White does train with him quite a bit, and Mark O'Brien said, I've known for a long time he's got a lot of talent. Well, he's definitely shown it this week that he's not only got talent on the flat, but he's definitely can climb, this kid, and he's going to be really enjoyable to watch. As Mobius Future Racing, it looks like they've launched Livingston across. This is a smart move, and this is what they've got to do if they want to hold on to that classification jersey for the sprint classification. Another rider that's really impressed me this week has to be the young Informed Tonelli rider of Lionel Mordett as well. Informed Tonelli Racing, they've really had a great season. In fact, they've stormed onto the National Road Series. I think that's the only way you could put it, is a stormed onto the series, because last year they were all just a development team. That's all they were doing. They're just developing riders. And this year they've continued that directive, but the results have just been coming thick and fast for them. As we see these two riders are going to get reeled in, so that's worked out well for Mobius Future Racing, but we can expect to continue to see fast laps around this circuit. As I said earlier, exposed to the wind though, so also a chance that it could split up later in the race, remembering that the riders have to do 30 laps of this circuit as we see the next rider attack as well now for the N-Swiss team. I think they'll keep pushing this pressure on the peloton consistently, and then later in the race, Dylan Sunderland, he will make his one big dish attack to try and take out this tour. It's incredible circumstances we're under, because not really do you ever get to an NRS Tour finish on the final day and have a rider that's leading the tour and is racing individually. As Jamie Finch tells us that Whelan did an eye-catching ride at Battle Recharge as well, guesting for Van Dam Racing. Yeah, well, he's been spreading his butter, that's for sure. He's ridden for a fair few teams this year, but one thing's for sure is that his talent is no longer a secret, and I look forward to following his progress in his career, particularly in the National Road Series next year, where he'll return with Inform Tonelli Racing, who's building a very, very strong team. Pat Lane joining them. He'll be a really good mentor for the younger riders. And rumour on the line is that Raphael Freinstein, the German national, is also been signed up by Inform Tonelli. It's pretty exciting signing. And that means that he'll be back in the NRS peloton next year too. So great things for the National Road Series. And obviously there's a lot to vie for now with the new system. So again, we see more pressure on the front of the peloton. Tired legs after 5 days of racing now after today. And I would expect it to break up, but I think it's a circuit that does definitely push for a bunch sprint. It's not an easy sprint finish to work out where to sit, but usually about 150 to go where the riders are now. You need to be opening up your sprint, but you can't do that unless you're in the first three wheels. So we'll get a fair indication from the first intermediate sprint. As I said earlier, it's very jam-packed in the intermediate in the sprint classification, so that'll be a hard-fought sprint on the line after 10 laps of racing. So 10 laps in, 20 laps in, we'll see those two intermediate sprints. Significant little group getting off the front here now. It's one thing you don't want to get is an organised group off the front. Tim Seller there, Sasha Bondarenko, Edwards, stage winner at the Tour of Gippsland earlier this year. And they're joined by Jesse Coyle, Tasman Nankervis, Liam Magennis is there. Jay Vine, Angus Lyons. Oh, that's a sneaky little move from Mobius Future Racing, and that's the type of move that can just win you this bike race. You can see it is actually Jesse Coyle. We know the train that he is. He's gone right to the front straight away, and he is driving this group down the back straight. Very smart move. Love to see these moves pulled off too. So Angus Lyons is in there. Brendan Davids is there. Patrick Lane, he's policing the group. Well, this is a very intriguing situation early in the race, but this shows that Mobius, they're very interested in trying to take out this tour overall. They've got three riders in there. Dylan Newbury's also made the junction with Dylan Sunderland from the N-Swiss team. So that's a significant group. It's about 12 riders large. We can see the peloton is chasing hard as it's Davids that really puts the pressure on the pedals now. And on this corner, you can really spread the peloton out. Well, it's going to be already, we can see it's going to be a really interesting stage today with everything to fight for. Last race of the season, no reason to go home on Monday with energy in the legs. And obviously, a lot of the riders will stick around for the Launceston Cycling Classic, which will take part on Sunday. If you're a local, get on down. I'll be there commentating on the ground. I can't wait. It's always a great race. But it's the Tour of Tasmania we're here for, the Spirit of Tasmania, Tour of Tasmania 2017. It's thanks to Let's Go Motorhomes that we can bring you this live stream. So if you are enjoying it, give us a thumbs up and do comment below how you think today will pan out. Can James Whelan hold on? He has a 17-second advantage over his teammate for next year, Lionel Mordaunt. Angus Lyons, 29 seconds astray. He's going to need something really impressive to get away, but you can see this continuously aggressive racing, and that's what's going to be difficult, because although we have seen that James Whelan is incredibly talented, one thing he doesn't have a lot of, and from people who have spoken closely to him, is they agree, he doesn't have a lot of experience just yet, which makes the fact that he leads this tour even more impressive. So it is Brendan Davids that was driving the peloton, well, driving the breakaway through that lap, but then it's been the counter-attack now off the front, the continuous aggression, which is going to fatigue these riders quite a lot after a hard week of racing. And it's going to be a tough ride, particularly with the wind coming off the water. It's going to make it hard for the riders today. Thanks for joining us on the live stream. It's incredible to think it was only a few years ago I was racing this series, and to think that a couple of years later we'd be bringing you live images of the Subaru National Road Series. It's quite incredible, really. And it's thanks to GTR as well. They've taken on the initiative to bring you these pictures. So it's great to see so many people already tuning in for this coverage. Well, it's a strung-out peloton, and you tell you what, down the back's not where you want to be. Particularly on this circuit, you get stuck at the back, you get exposed to the wind. Well, your day can end very, very quickly. You can't be a help to your teammates. Riders that will be looking for the finish, if it is to be a bunch sprint, obviously Nick White. He seems to be the quickest guy on the line here at the Tour of Gippsland at the moment. So we'll wait to see if he makes the finish sprint. Sasha Bondarenko-Edwards, maybe he can try a flyer late like he did at Gippsland. The confidence will be high for the young man, and he's an exciting rider to watch. I really enjoy watching Sasha Bondarenko-Edwards. I've enjoyed watching his development along with a lot of these young riders from this Inform Tonelli racing team. It's really been something quite impressive to watch them progress from literally B grade in the VRS series, the Victorian Road Series competition. B grade earlier this year, some of these riders. Carter Turnbull, one important one that I like to mention. He's a great up-and-coming talent. And has progressed from B grade in the VRS, and at Tour of Gippsland, Carter Turnbull was actually one of the most aggressive riders in the Tour. He was really off the front, pushing the pace, giving it everything he could to keep breakaways away, but not being worried about what other riders were doing, not being intimidated, and that's what it's about. And so we're waiting to see what the race situation. Angus Lyons continues to be aggressive, though. He doesn't want to hang around. He got a great result up Grindelwald, where his teammate and he himself went 1-2. Peter Livingston took out the stage, and Angus Lyons second. They broke away early in the day. They were away for almost 100 kilometres, and they stayed away all the way to the finish. And they rewarded their team with the victory and 1-2 result on the stage, which was fantastic. So Mobius has really come to this Tour of Tasmania with a lot to fight for after winning it last year in incredible circumstances, with Ben Dybel setting an almost record time up the Poatina ascent, nearly matching the time that of Richie Port. Quite incredible, really. And, well, we all know we've got our eyes firmly on Richie Port for next year's Tour de France. He's already excited and getting prepared, and BMC have already said they'll go to the Tour de France, backing him in 100%. So the race situation, couple of riders off the front here now. 3 riders off the front, and a good spread of riders too. Looks like it might be Harrison Bailey there. It's actually Joel Walsh. He's there with Ethan Behrens from the Mobius Future Racing. He's a rider, the really young, talented climber. Look to see some more from him next year as well in this series. Nicholas Reddish, he's out there for Oliver's Real Foods. And this attack will be interesting to see what the response is from the peloton. This is a good chance for riders to jump across to the breakaway and really get a good gap. Someone like that of Angus Lyons. Maybe Alexander Evans. Haven't spoken a lot about him, but he took out the Queen stage of the tour. The finish up Poetina, what a great ride. And he said it's not only his first NRS victory, his first club race. He hadn't even won a club race yet. And while it is difficult, he's in a difficult and strong club in Bendigo, and but he had yet to win a club race, and now he's won a stage of a NRS, and none shorter than that of the Poetina Ascent. That's pretty incredible stuff indeed. So we watch him with great interest too. That's the great thing about the National Road Series. It earths these great young talents. So we're seeing who's on the front. It is Informed Tonelli. They'll be happy to protect Lionel Mort at second place. But if anything was to happen to the yellow jersey, I'm sure they'd be happy to keep going and try and push for the overall victory. Mind you, they've already got this young James Whelan, young talented Melburnian. He's on board for the team for next year already, so they've got an exciting team lining up. Bunch kick for Nick White for sure, Matt Ross says. It's great to see some comments coming through and some great numbers of people viewing this coverage, which makes it even more worthwhile. Last year, this course was pouring with rain. It was Ben Diable that went into the stage a clear leader, but many teams threw everything at him, including myself. We tried to take it off him, but today it's dry roads. It'll be a much nicer race for the riders, but what we haven't seen is any shortage of aggression. Won't be long now, and we should be seeing almost a sprint lap. I think they've covered 9 laps now, and 8 laps they've completed. So 2 more laps to this first intermediate sprint. We can see these two riders really pushing the pace. Where's Joel Walsh? He's hurting them. He's strung them out. They really need to keep it together. And Joel Walsh maybe just doesn't know how strong he is, and he's really opening up the gaps through the corners. This corner here in particular for the bunch is quite technical. It narrows up, and it's a difficult one. And you'll see as the riders come around in the bunch that some of the riders at the back, they just keep getting strung out of this corner. It's not the place you want to be sitting at, that's for sure. You need to be at the front on this circuit. You can see they get squeezed. There's a couple of riders already struggling quite a lot. If these 3 riders were to stay away, I'm just checking the intermediate sprint points classification to give you an update on where these riders sit as far as the sprint bonuses. So none of these riders have any sprints in the sprint classification, so this is a perfect scenario for Peter Livingston and his Mobius Future Racing team. If they could stay away and absorb the 3-2-1 points, that would be an ideal situation. But there's a lot of pressure coming from behind, and it's actually the move from Peter Livingston himself. Not so sure about this one, unless it is the fact that he's following that of Liam Magennis, but I'm not so sure about this move. This could urge the peloton to chase it back, and then if Magennis can get a good sprint on, well, that could ruin this plan altogether. We'll wait and see who the 3 riders are chasing across. We know that the green jersey is there. That is the jersey leader of Peter Livingston. But who else is in his company, and how's this go for him? He knows that they'll get the whistle this lap, so it's not a bad move, but I just think that maybe it could have been better to just stay in the peloton and make sure you keep a close eye on the other riders, with these 3 riders in front having no points at all. And you can see the peloton does not want to let the green jersey go. He's got to sit up and let this group go away to take out these points. It's an interesting situation here. It's not one that I would like, but he's had to do it. Unfortunately for him, he had to chase Liam Magennis, because Liam Magennis has gone off the front there. So it is a defensive move. And Liam Magennis, well, that's exactly what he has to do. Now what does Liam Magennis do? He has to get across to these riders. If he was to catch up and get the 3rd place, then that would put them on equal points, which would be quite an intriguing battle going forward. It's great, these little races inside the race. It's always quite a tactical battle. You need to be switched on at all times. Liam Magennis, well, he's tried to catch Mobius off guard, but they're not making the same mistakes they made just 10 days ago. They are making sure that they're doing everything right today, and they've been great so far, Mobius. They've even been off the front with their rider Angus Lyons, who's the top 3 on general classification. He's just 29 seconds behind the overall leader. It's with great interest, we'll wait to see these first intermediate sprint. They've made the junction. Now, this is an incredible situation now because, as I said earlier, I'm not 100% sure on Peter Livingston's sprinting capabilities. Liam Magennis can be very quick on the line. He's a very talented rider in his own right, and he can be quick on the line, so it will be very interesting to see the outcome of the intermediate sprint. This has really put a lot of pressure on. So if you were the Mobius Future Racing guys, I would be trying to make Liam Magennis push the pace to keep this away for the intermediate sprint. It's a very smart move by Liam Magennis, but he will have spent a lot of energy to get across to this front group. By rights, they either get the whistle this lap or the sprint. We'll look for the flag. We'll know if we see the flag out that this is the sprint lap. This live stream coming to you thanks to Let's Go Motorhomes. This is the Spirit Tasmania 2017 Tour of Tasmania stage in Devonport. Looks like the flag's out for mine, and it is, and they're sprinting hard. Oh, on the line it was Magennis. He has taken it. We have a tie for the sprint classification. That's my visual anyway. I think Magennis has taken it out, and he's finished first. Second was that of Peter Livingston. Well, this is very intriguing, isn't it? Now we have them equal on points. Righto, you people at home, time to comment in and say whether you think that Liam Magennis will take out the jersey or will it be Peter Livingston. It'll be those two to fight it out now, because there's not enough points left in the competition today for anyone else to go for the jersey. So, who will it be? Magennis or will it be Livingston? I really feel for Mobius Racing at the moment. It looks like it actually was Livingston's teammate, Behrens. Not so sure about that. I'll look for confirmation, but it's coming through. Behrens has taken, that's a really poor execution by the team, unfortunately, if that is the case. He maybe just did the lead out a little bit too good, Ethan Behrens. But if he has, well, that actually puts Livingston on 10 points. And that'll push up Liam Magennis to 11 points. So wait for official confirmation of those results. But it looks that it is the case. Liam Magennis first, Ethan Behrens second, and Peter Livingston. Well, I wouldn't want to be on the sidelines with the director sportif of Mobius Future Racing right now, because that's poor execution. So they need to really do something special now, because the ball is well and truly on the offensive side of the court for Liam Magennis. That was a great move. He rode across. He had to do all the work to get across that front group, and then he has won that intermediate sprint. It also looks like Nicholas White has made the junction across to this front group. And this is very interesting. Very interesting move by the Oliver's Real Foods rider. Would have expected him to stay in the peloton today and wait for the sprint. But he does like to get out on the attack, and he was on the attack yesterday, which led to his second place result. So we wait and see what occurs in these next few laps for this breakaway. But that's getting a significant group now, and that's really turned the screws a little bit on the peloton. They really don't want this big group getting away. No issues on the general classification with riders in this group. Your front group riders: Liam Magennis, Peter Livingston, Ethan Behrens, Lachlan Holiday, Joel Walsh, Jay Vine, Nicholas Reddish. He's joined there by his teammate Nicholas White. Liam Magennis makes up the riders in that front group of 8 riders. Jesse Coyle leading the peloton. They need to bring Liam Magennis back, but they also now need to get points for their own rider. So it's incredible circumstances here for them as a team. What can they do? What can they produce? They don't want to finish second on the sprint jersey 2 races in a row. I know that for sure. Here we go. Looking at this front group. Looks like they'll be brought back, this group. Let's have a look across and see. Jake McGee, he's saying Liam Magennis to take green. He's a driver. He's a driver, all right. And a max of 8 points, Jeffrey Stubbs says, well, as far as I know, there's only one intermediate sprint left, so that would have only 3 points on offer, but we'll check with the tech regs on that. It's still very interesting situation on the sprint classification. Yes, Livingston on 10 points now and Magennis on 11. So it does seem like it was, in fact, Livingston that did finish second in that sprint. So, sorry, he did finish third in that sprint, as we said. So he's 1 point behind. He really needs to win the next sprint. But I think that Liam Magennis has probably got the sprint over him. So Liam Magennis, well, he basically just has to sit in the peloton and watch Peter Livingston now. The tables have turned. That's all Livingston had to do, and he did do it to his credit. But in the sprint, he needed to finish right on the wheel of Magennis. They're lapping at an incredible rate. Already completed 12 laps of the circuit. It's a very, very fast pace out here today. Thank you for joining us on this live stream. Tour of Tasmania brought to you by the Spirit of Tasmania. If you've never been on the Spirit, you should go and check it out. It's a beautiful ride across. Quite enjoy it, actually. And there'll be many people making the trip across for Sunday's Launceston Cycle Classic, that's for sure. It's going to be a great criterium. I can't wait to make my way over myself, as there's still the GPM racing team that really pushes on the front of the peloton still. It's a fast circuit, this one, and it's difficult to get a breakaway, but you can already see some riders really struggling at the back of the group. And the attacks will keep coming. They'll definitely keep coming. Tom Robinson, he's in that front group. What a great victory he had at the Tour of Gippsland earlier in the season, just 10 days ago. An incredible ride indeed. So no one's really happy to say whether it'll be a sprint or a breakaway just yet. After nearly 30 minutes of racing, the riders have completed 12 laps. It's blistering pace. And, well, like I said, in dry conditions, this circuit is really quick. Last year was in terrible conditions. The road was quite wet, and it made it quite difficult in the corners. But today, not such the issue. Down this straight, you can really expose the peloton to the wind, and that's what's happening here. They're putting it in the gutter. It looks like the N-Swiss team continuing to put the pressure on the race. They're going to try and get their rider on the general classification, Dylan Sunderland. They're going to try and get him a minute, believe it or not, a minute today. And at very least, he'd like to get 30 seconds so he can move up onto the peloton, move up onto the podium, should I say. They've had a great race this tour. And, well, they won't be stopping before they get a great result on the general classification. That has really split this group off the front, and it's a significant group of about 10 riders, I'd say. 10 riders off the front. And, well, I think Tom Robinson was there as well. It is Tom Robinson that's doing all the work there. He's joined by Liam Magennis in that front group as well. Ethan Behrens, he's still there. It's still this group that was off the front before. No, it's not. It's Campbell Jones, Tasman Nankervis, Liam Edwards there. Thomas Jones as the Angus Lions has slipped in there again. Beautiful move. Dylan Sunderland, he is in there as well. So now, Lionel Mordet. Nice move by him as well. A lot of pressure on the general classification leader, James Whelan. He's really got pressure on him now because 3 riders in the top 6 on the general classification, they're in this breakaway. What happens now? Because he might have been getting assistance from the Informed Tonelli racing team that he joins next year, but now Informed Tonelli, they've represented in that front group with Lionel Mordet. Angus Lyons is there. He's third on general classification. Ryan Kavanagh's there with Dylan Sunderland, and also they have Thomas Jones there from Informed Tonelli Racing as well. So there's plenty of power in this bunch. Mobius Future Racing, they've got Ethan Behrens there to do the work. Well, this is really quite an interesting situation. Looks like it could be Brendan Davis making the junction as well. Well, this race could be going for a breakaway victory if this group is to get much lead. It is, in fact, the yellow jersey chasing on his own now. Well, this is the problem when you don't have a team and you come to a National Road Series event. I know you wouldn't have expected to lead the race, but he does lead the race, and now he needs to fight very, very, very hard to try and keep this lead himself. Well, this is a large breakaway group, and this could be the race right here. If this does not come back in the next few laps, this could be all gone because there's too many teams benefiting out of this, too many teams with too much to gain. Well, I hope for him it's not the case because he's really had a great tour and he deserves to win this tour. But the fact is it's a tour and you've got to race all the days. He should have known when the move come from those other general classification riders, when Mordaunt, Lyons and Sunderland made their move into that front group. He should have known to get there. Oliver's Real Foods, they've got no reason to have to chase to work in that front group. But look at Mobius. They've now turned their attention to winning this bike race. Don't worry about the sprint jersey. There's a gold jersey on for grabs, the yellow jersey. Can they go back-to-back in Tour of Tasmania's? The peloton is lined out behind. They're pushing the pressure to try and catch this lead group. But it will be not for long because too many riders in this front group have too much to gain. Who's driving the peloton? Let's have a look. It is still James Whelan, but how long can he keep it going? We know he's in incredible form, but how good can that form be? Neil Vanderploeg, great to see him tuning in. He reckons it'll be a breakaway staying today. Good day to be quick and off the GC. Yeah, well, he was a sneaky rider himself, Neil Vanderploeg. He's heading over to UK next year, and we wish him all the best. Thanks for tuning in. Great to see these riders tuning in that aren't at the event. Watching from Thailand, thanks Una Kennedy. It's great to see people tuning in from all over the globe. Alistair Christie Johnson, another National Road Series rider, he's watching as well. Thanks for joining, guys. This is incredible circumstances now. A big group off the front, and James Whelan, unfortunately, losing grip on this Tour of Tasmania. Well, regardless, he'll be known for riding a great race, but this is where races are won and lost. And this is where I was speaking earlier about this young rider. Talent, not a problem. Experience, well, there's still a little bit left to be desired. And unfortunately, with no one here to help him in his team, he's going to really struggle to bring these riders back into the fold. I really feel for James Whelan in this circumstance because he really has about 2 minutes. If you have a look at that race time clock, if that hits 35 minutes and he hasn't made junction with this group in front, this group, and I might sound silly, but this group could go all the way and lap the field on this circuit. There is too much on offer for these riders. And Swiss have got a lot to gain. They're going to get on the podium if this stays away. Mobius Future Racing are going to move up to second at minimum and could possibly even take it over. Informed Tonelli, well, they're now going to be the leaders on the road with Lionel Mordaunt. Well, that would be a great story in itself. Even if James Whelan was to lose the Tour, if Lionel Mordaunt could win the Tour, the young rider, barely ridden a National Road Series event, and they're coming here and now sitting second on the general classification in the Tour of Tasmania. Well, there's been a lot of great stories out of this Tour, but it's sitting right in the mix right now. What will happen? Neil Vanderploeg. If Vanny thinks it'll be a break, it'll be a kick for sure, Steve Price. Yes, yeah, well, that's probably true too. No, but we'll wait and see. I think this breakaway's going all the way. That gap is really opening up, and I don't think James Whelan's going to get any help from behind. And this is a very, very strong group out in front. Wait for confirmation of the time gap. And bring it across to you, let you know what the gap is. Ethan Behrens continues to do a truckload of work. And Brendan David's out there. If I was Brendan Davids, I'd be taking a seat firmly in the middle of the group. Don't need to assist this breakaway. Liam Edwards, young rider out there. Tasman Nankervis, another young rider. But it's Kavanagh and Sunderland. They look like the powerhouses in that breakaway. Both from N Swiss and both in incredible form. And maybe Dylan Sunderland can make an incredible move later in the stage. That's 15 laps in. They'll come through. This will be the 16th lap completed. And this front group, they are absolutely motoring. James Whelan, he's trying everything he can back in the peloton, but he's now losing time on general classification. 17 seconds is the gap, and 17 seconds was his overall lead overnight. Well, it's sad to see these happen, but this is bike racing, and this is where smarts really come into it, and experience as well. In that front group, also there for Oliver's Real Foods is Campbell Jones. They would have loved to have seen their rider of Nicholas White make that split, but he hasn't. He's missed it. But in there is this Angus Lyons, 29 seconds down on general classification. Well, anything can happen in this general classification now, and we start to see moves coming from behind. Where's the yellow jersey? He's just slipping in there about sixth wheel of the peloton. Oh, and all sorts of things are running through his mind. Out to 30 seconds, the time gap. As I said, this group, too much to gain. Well, it's going to be difficult for them to reel these guys in now. They've got to stay motivated in this front group, but the pace is fast. And 30 laps will tick over pretty quick. I did say if that race time went past 35 and they hadn't made contact, that they won't make contact. And I'm going to stick to that. The gap is opening up. 40 seconds is the gap. This could be it. So of this group, who do you like? Who do you like in this group? We've got from Saddler's Verve, Tom McCracken. Don't know a lot about him. If you do, tell us a little bit about Tom McCracken. What do you know about Tom McCracken? Does he have a sprint? What's he offer? Seeing, yeah, let's go young gun, Liam Edwards, Rob Hanning. Yes, he is a young gun, and he is young too. This group looks like they're all working really well, which makes it even tougher for this the peloton to catch up. Looks like it was Pat Lane leading the peloton. Well, he's here on his own as well, representing the Iceaway Sports Swiss Wellness team. Those guys are heading back from Tour of Hainan. They'll be racing on the weekend at the Launceston Cycle Classic, but they couldn't get back in time, unfortunately, for the Tour of Tasmania. So it's the first time the team's missed the Tour. But the live stream, thanks for tuning in. It's brought to you by Let's Go Motorhomes. We're really appreciative of their support. Without them, we can't bring you the live images. And GTR events, well, they've done an amazing job of the National Road Series over the years, but in the last two, with the Tour of Gippsland and this, the Tour of Tasmania, it's been fantastic to be able to bring you live coverage. Paul Smart, that's very good. Phil McCracken, I like that one. So big group out in front, and with mutual gains, there is a great camaraderie in this front group, particularly from those N-Swiss guys. And well, it looks like this could go all the way today. Here we looking for the time gap as they come through now. And well, we've turned our attention well and truly away from the sprint classification, because it looks like with these riders out in front, well, a little bit of disruption here. Angus Lyons doesn't want to get caught at the back. He needs to be up the front and in this move. Looks like there's been a significant push of the pace in this front group. And, well, the peloton, they're still strung out, but it's not making up any time at all as the gap goes over the 40-second mark. Ethan Behrens is in that front group as well. I was speaking about him earlier. He's a young, talented rider, and he's got a lot to offer. He's going to be pushing as hard as he can to help his teammates out in that front group. Looking to see what can he offer here. The group's back together. Still 40 seconds is the time gap. Final race of the series, of the National Road Series. Well, it's always the hardest fought Tour of Tasmania. It's the hardest to win as well. Incredibly hard to win. But last year was Ben Dybel. An incredible ride by Ben Dybel, in fact, to take out the Tour. Waiting to see this time gap this time. It looks like they're pushing the pace at the front of this breakaway, but it looks like it's mainly Ryan Kavanagh and Dylan Sunderland that are doing most of the work. Lionel Morden, he wants it to stay away. He's pushing as well. He needs his teammate of Tom Jones to come up and really start to do the big turns. He doesn't need to feel bad about taking the win off James Whelan. He's his teammate next year, but now's the time to push the pace, and you can see they're not happy with this. Angus Lyons is going to the front. He wants to push the pace as well. Ryan Kavanagh, Dylan Sunderland. Ryan Kavanagh going back, trying to rally the troops. He'll be telling them there's mutual benefits for us all. Let's work together. And they'll be saying, well, you could do the work and we'll get the easy ride, and that'll be great for us. This is really quite what we were looking forward to. You couldn't wish for a better scenario. But what do Mobius Future Racing do? Right now, I think they need to turn their eyes to winning the bike race. They need Ethan Behrens to go to the front, just really pour it on for the next 4 or 5 laps. Then it'll be race over. Then they can concentrate. Then they can throw down a big attack at the end with Angus Lyons. He's only, if this breakaway stays away, he's only 12 seconds behind that of Lionel Mordaunt, just 12 seconds in front of Angus Lyons. And if they could stay away and take some time bonuses on the finish, well, any one of the three riders could win. Dylan Sunderland, 57 seconds. And I said it at the top of the coverage, if you're within a minute today, you've got a chance. Well, he's definitely got a chance, all right. And if he was to throw down a big attack at the end, particularly if he was to be launched by his teammate, Ryan Kavanagh, who's in incredible form, that could be a difficult one to bring back. And the tension would then push over to that of Mordaunt, the Chase, and Lyons. And I don't know if either of the two altogether, they'd have the ability to bring back those two strong riders from N-Swiss. Peter Sunderland, you're not wrong. Great tactics, all right. Great tactics in the last two tours, in fact. Great to watch at Tour of Gippsland. It was Tom Robinson that got the job done there for the team with an incredible stage victory. But right now, they just need to keep pushing the pace and get it going. Let's have a look at the time gap this time as it continues to grow. Last time through was 45 seconds. The peloton is doing everything it can to bring them back, but I just think that it's going to be difficult. Yes, GC guys in the break might start messing around Jamie, but I don't think that anyone from behind is going to chase. That's the issue for young James Whelan. Fraser, Pearce, I'll give you bad news. Whelan is back in the peloton, 45 seconds last lap, but in actual fact, that gap has definitely grown. It's almost half a lap of the circuit, and this is where it becomes a big issue. It's out to 50 seconds. It's Michael Porter on the front of the peloton. He's trying to chase for Ian Talbot, his teammate, who's sitting third on general classification. Well, Ian's not in the breakaway. He's slipping down to about fifth on the general classification if this breakaway stays away. So maybe James Whelan needs to go up and get some assistance from his team and say, can you help me out? Yeah, if you want to win the tour, Andrew Christie Johnson, he's the director of Isolay Sports Swiss Wellness. He's saying, you want to win the tour, now's the time to attack. Well, it's 10 laps to go. You need to get on the move soon. But Dylan Sunderland, anything's possible with that guy. It's a great breakaway, though. Plenty of talent out there. 50 seconds is the gap. I can't see James Whelan being able to reel it in, but maybe Oliver's from behind. Do they bring it back for a sprint for their rider, Nicholas White? He's been in incredible form this week. 2-stage podiums. He just needs that bunch sprint. If he can get a bunch sprint, maybe he can take a nice victory here for the team and end the National Road Series on an absolute high. James Whelan keeps doing the work at the front. I tell you what, he's opening up a lot of eyes. It's going to be a great little fight down to the line. Just 10 laps to go when they come through. A little bit messy at the front, but the group continues momentum. They're definitely going to have to really get into it at the front. I think they need to split it up, just as Andrew Christie Johnson mentioned on the comments in the feed, because there's too many passengers in this front group. 13 riders is too big a group. And maybe it's just someone like Dylan Sunderland needs to go up to a rider like Angus Lyons and just say mutually, there's something to benefit here. Let's get away together. Force Mowdett to do the work in the group. But it's just hard to know how it's all going to play out. There's so many ways it could go. I definitely think this breakaway survives, even though Talbot's team has come to the front to really help out James Whelan. You know, there's heartbreak in this for some riders, but there's some greatness come out of it for others. Ryan Kavanagh continues to drive the breakaway as the impetus has really come into the peloton now. They're single file down the side straight. 45 seconds is the gap. It isn't over yet. 45 minutes in. 10 laps to go. We're in the second half of the race at least now. They've done the intermediate sprint. This lap, it won't change the standings because the lead is too great, I believe, of the riders on the classification. It looks like Liam McGuinness will take it out, the sprint classification. Just getting a clarification on the points of that jersey. I'll let you know if any of these riders in this group can take out the sprint classification. Ryan Kavanagh has taken maximum points, takes him to 9. So it will be his teammate that wins this sprint classification in the Tour of Tasmania, Liam Magennis, with his brilliant move earlier. And when he came back to the peloton, straight away that next move was forced, and it was forced by his teammates, and they were able to force this group of 13, not just 13 riders, but 13 strong riders. I haven't spoken a lot about Brendan Davids. He's been having a tough week here at the Tour of Tasmania, but he's another rider that could go solo from this group. He hasn't been doing too much work. That's what you'd want to see. There's no reason for Oliver's Real Foods to drive this race away. They haven't got a rider on the overall classification that's being affected by these results. But young Brendan Davids, he still is up there on the general classification, but 2 minutes astray. So it'd be difficult to see him getting on the podium, but he's getting all the victory out here at the moment. We keep watching Ethan Berrien's out in the breakaway, and Joanna is tuning in. Go on, Mobius. Well, he's going to play a big role in this for his teammate Angus Lyons. They need to put the Band-Aid on the wound from losing the sprint classification on this final day. It happened to them in Gippsland, and it's happened to them again here in Tour of Tasmania. But these are different circumstances here in Tasmania, because they've got a real chance of winning this tour. Angus Lyons, it would be his biggest victory yet. The Ballarat local down in my end of town. It would be great to see him take out a victory after he finished second on the stage up Grindelwald, a terribly tough stage. His teammate Peter Livingston, he was the winner of the stage, and it was Angus Lyons that finished with him in second place. A team 1-2, a fantastic ride. And obviously Mobius, the winners of the tour last year, they come here with a great motivation to go back-to-back. Could it happen? It would be great to see it happen for the team and their Team DS, Tom Petty, who I'm sure at the moment is happy about this situation, but also at the same time not so happy about losing that sprint classification. 45 seconds, it continues to be the gap. And now, who wants it the most? The peloton is doing what it can, but they're running out of numbers. Who's going to help out to bring it back? Too many things for the front group, too many great mutual benefits for that front group. Race VMG, how many laps left? They're coming around, that's 8 laps to go. They got 8 laps to go that time, and it is Ryan Kavanagh is driving it's Dylan Sunderland driving the pace. I'd love to see Ryan Kavanagh really put in the big ones for his teammate in these final laps. He needs to really move up the peloton. I think you'll find Ryan Kavanagh sifting down the back of this front group to sort of try and motivate the other riders who are just passengers at this point. No point being passengers. Liam Edwards, go, says the Race VMG team. Yes, well, Liam Edwards, he's a huge talent. Yeah, anything could happen with him. His potential is huge. Let's have a quick look at who's in this breakaway, and then we'll go to you guys and you can give us a few predictions. So Dylan Sunderland, we know he's there. Tasman Nankervis, he's there also. Standish from AMR Renault. Lyons from Mobius Future Racing. Thomas and Mordett from Inform Tonelli. Brendan Davids, he's joined there by Campbell Jones of Oliver's Real Foods. Ethan Berriens, he's there supporting Angus Lyons. Tom McCracken, spoke about him earlier from the Saddlers Verve Racing team. Liam Edwards is in there. Ryan Kavanagh and Harrison Bailey are the last riders to make that group. 13 riders, 40 seconds though, and the group behind is starting to get some momentum. There's some obvious movement in the peloton, also from the team of Nero Racing. Now they've got a rider in there that could really push for the for the final sprint, and has already had some good results. Toby Orchard from Nero Racing Team, he could actually really shake up the finish today. He's got a big sprint finish on him. It'll be between him, Bondarenko Edwards, and also that of Nicholas Wire. I think they'd be your 3 guys to really fight it out for the sprint finish today. But that has to come back first. 5 seconds, the front group lost that lap. Now it depends on these riders that have been sitting on the back. Passengers, as we call them in cycling. They've been passengers in the breakaway. They just need to give 3 or 4 turns, get 3 or 4 laps off the clock, and that means that it will be difficult for them to be caught. The real issue for James Whelan is that it's 40 seconds, but if this group survives, there are time bonuses on the finish sprint as well. Although there's a lot quicker guys in this front group than those 3 or 4 GC riders that have represented in the front. And here we go. It's just 7 laps remaining. Tom Jones, he's driving it. He's trying to do everything he can for his rider in Lionel Mordaunt. What an incredible tour from Lionel Mordaunt. Liam Edwards looks like he's starting to struggle there a little bit, just dropping the wheel. I tell you who looks a piece is this young McCracken from Settlers Verve. I don't know a lot about him. Please, if you're over in Perth, tell me a little bit about him. Settlers Verve, they've got a knack of unearthing these young Criterium riders at the moment. They've done a great job with, it looked like there was a bit of a hop there through that corner. Yes, Settlers Verve, they've been unearthing these young riders lately. Mountain bike riders, Neil van der Ploeg, well, you know, they've been coming onto the road scene every year, haven't they? So, Stanish and Nankervis, he's doesn't expect them to have the racecraft. Well, I don't know. I reckon they're going to have to try something. These riders, they want to win this stage. They're going to have to go now because the breaks down to 35 seconds is the gap. As it is, Lyons, who takes things into his own hands. He wants that podium. He knows he's guaranteed a podium. He's got nothing to lose. He just needs to drive this group, try and keep it away, and hope that he can make one last ditch in the final lap. If Lyons was to get away with Sunderland, they could forge a lead, and well, Lyons has a significant gap on Sunderland, 28 seconds. There's some mutual benefits there, so Sunderland could find himself on the podium, but we can see them slowing up here in the breakaway. And well, from behind, Toby Orchard's team, Nero Racing, they continue to drive it. They are motivated. They're motivated. They've seen that Tonelli, informed Tonelli Racing, well, they took a stage victory at the Tour of Gippsland, so why not Nero Racing take one on this final day, the final stage of the Tour of Tasmania and the final race of the National Road Series for 2017. Thank you for tuning into the live stream, brought to you by Let's Go Motorhomes. We appreciate their support. The Spirit of Tasmania, Tour of Tasmania, 7 laps to go. Or 6 laps to go, should I say. 6 laps to go. 6 laps to go. Alexander Evans still in the front group, actually. Chasing group, should I say. Alexander Evans is in the chasing group. Alexander Evans, let's have a look where he's sort of sitting at the moment. He's sitting quite a way back, but he's in about 50th wheel of the peloton is Alexander Evans. It's going to be a beautiful finish. It's going to be edge of the seat because right down to the wire, we're not going to know who wins the tour. It's going to be hard to know who wins the stage. I'd love to see a big solo attack out of this front group. Force the hand a little bit and then see who wants it the most. Someone like Brendan Davids, someone maybe even Harrison Bailey. Got nothing to lose. Go for it, son. Tom McCracken, like I said, he looks a piece. He's just sitting in the wheels. He's done nothing too much to contribute to the breakaway. He looks fresh. He's sitting the bike well. And maybe, just maybe, if he makes a move for it, they won't follow him. Liam Edwards, he's a great young talent, but I think he's really struggling even to hold on to this group. He's had a tough, long tour. He's really improved this year, thinking this young man. He's only under 19s, and he's relatively new to the sport, but he's got a lot of wise heads around him and a great coach too. So this group, he just needs to keep pushing. I can tell you what's going on here is Campbell Jones is really doing a truckload of work in this front group to help his teammate of Brendan Davids, the South African national, to stay away to go for a stage victory. 38 seconds the gap. They're really starting to really come on top of this group, but can they catch them? Coming around 5 laps to go. Just 9 kilometres left in the Tour of Tasmania. Spirit of Tasmania, Tour of Tasmania 2017. That's a mouthful, but get it out each time. 5 laps to go. That's 9 kilometres. 9 kilometres, and we'll give you the time gap when they come through. Well, time for predictions. Stage win and happy to move up to 3rd overall. I tend to agree with you, Andrew Christie Johnson. But who takes out the stage win for them? They don't really have a sprinter in this group. Tom is a dark horse. Yeah, well, Tom Jones. Tom Jones could make a move for it. So many talented riders in this group. Let's have some predictions come through. And I'm going to make a prediction and go with... I'll have to say, I reckon that I'm going to go with McCracken. a real outsider. I really like what he's done today. He's made himself in this front group. Sellers Verve would love a stage victory, so I'm going to go with McCracken, a real outsider. But probably Harrison Bailey needs to be the quickest on the line, I think. Brendan David's very strong earlier in the season, but he just hasn't had the legs that we've seen him in the previous races this season, this week in Tasmania. And then we've got obvious riders that can really push for a breakaway. Ryan Kavanagh, Dylan Sunderland, Lyons, Mordaunt. But the problem is the GC side for those riders. That breakaway's not coming down quick enough. 38 seconds the time gap. 38 seconds the time gap. Thanks for joining us for the live stream for this, the Tour of Tasmania 2017. It's been fantastic to be able to bring you live action of the National Road Series. Firstly at the Tour of Gippsland just 10 days ago, and now here at Tour of Tasmania. Beautiful day here in Devonport. Who will take out the stage? And who will take out the Tour? Because at the moment it looks like it's going to be Lionel Mordaunt. In very unlikely circumstance. I know that he would have gone into the stage today thinking that he was a chance, but I don't think he would have thought that he could win the Tour. And it's just funny how things go. You know, he's done all the hard work all week. He's got himself sitting in a great position. 4 laps to go. That's 4 laps to go. 7.2 kilometres remaining in this Tour of Tasmania. Tour of Tasmania 2017. And, well, some moves will begin to be made. Probably after the next lap, when they go under 5Ks to go. It's sort of like this mental thing for the riders. 5 kilometres, that'll make them think they can survive. We'll wait for the time gap. James Whelan, mate, my thoughts are with you in today. I know this is a really tough experience, but I tell you what, he'll be better for it. Being put in these circumstances and being able to do what he's done in this Tour as an individual rider is already incredible. It's disappointing that he's most likely going to lose the Tour, but still I think his efforts have been very, very much noticed by all those in the right places. This kid's got a great future ahead of him, James Whelan. Yeah, well, Jake, I think Sunderland can go solo, but I don't think that N-Swiss are doing the right moves. This looks like there's going to be a bit of a move down here, but the speed is just on too much. I think it's been a tough day out in front. Sunderland should be able to go solo, but whether he can survive with so many other things to look for in this front group. Too many GC representatives. I think if there was only 1 or 2, but with Lyons there as well, he's not going to let Sunderland go. Here we go. Let's have a look. If Davids can throw down an attack, I said when they come through, they'll get 3 laps to go. 3 laps to go. They bring him over just over 5 kilometres left in the bike race. 5.4 kilometres when they go under the banner. And, well, it'll be up to the guys in front. What can they do? Who's going to win? Why isn't the Warney winner racing? Well, he was over at Tour of Hainan, I believe, and so unfortunately couldn't get back in time to do the Tour of Tasmania. It doesn't look like much fun at the back, Chris Stefanoni. 3 laps to go. 3 laps to go in this, the final stage of Tour of Tasmania. This group still building even more of a lead now, 45 seconds. So it looks like this will be the group to take out the stage. Inform Tonelli have been given the thumbs up by Andrew Christie Johnson, and I given the thumbs up too, not only for this race, not only for the season, but for the last 2 years they've just been continually building their team, and they've got Sasha Bondarenko-Edwards took a stage victory last Tour in the Tour of Gippsland. It was a great victory, and well, they might be just going to take out the overall in the Tour of Tasmania. It'll be unprecedented. No one would have expected this from Mordaunt, and I'm not discrediting the kid, but he's just an incredible ride this week. Absolutely incredible ride. Under 3 laps to go. At the back is the rider of Ryan Kavanagh. He needs to be at the front, Ryan Kavanagh, unless he's going to try and force an attack here and then hopefully open things up for Dylan Sunderland. Dylan Sunderland looks like he's going to slide himself up to the podium if it all stays away. If you're back in the peloton and you could hear me and you could hear me, I'd be telling James Whelan, just drive it, mate. Just try and keep this gap down. Stay on that podium. You deserve it. You've raced so well. It's a real shame to see it all slipping away. But it was always on the cards. N-Swiss was always going to be aggressive today. There was so much at stake, and they had nothing to lose. Go and throw all their cards in. They weren't worried about keeping anything up the sleeve today. Liam McGuinness, he was the one that pushed the pressure early, went out, secured the sprint jersey. Well, that would already made it a successful day for them. But now they've factored in this front group with their two strongest riders, arguably, with Kavanagh and Sunderland. And now we're going to see it all unfold. 3.6 kilometres to go when they come under the banner. Just 2 laps to go. Yes, heartbreak for James Whelan, but it could be a dream come true for young Lionel Mordett, and it would be great to see. I've really been impressed by Informed Tonelli, but could they also surprise and take out the stage? Tom Jones' representation in this front group has been crucial, along with that of Ethan Behrens for Mobius Future Racing. Angus Lyons will be sliding up to second on the general classification. Well, it's now or never. It could even be too late to make a move. Behrens is going to have to get some pressure on the front to launch his teammate in. Angus Lyons. You can see Brendan Davis and Campbell Jones. They're getting ready at the back. But that's not where you're going to want to be. Even in a small group like this, you're going to have to come through that final bend in the first 3 or you're not going to win today's stage. Kavanagh's getting a lot of support. A lot of support in that front group. They're still sitting at the back. Who will make the first move? Well, it's going to be hard while Jones is setting such a pace on the front. He keeps driving this front group, should I say. And while the gap's opening up, James Whelan, everything's fallen away for him. It's hard to see, but I tell you what, the kid's got a really big future, and I'm excited about seeing him progress. Well, they took the race on this front group. And it was mainly the N-Swiss guys, but with assistance from Mobius Future Racing riders and the Informed Tonelli boys, this group has driven away. Can Liam Edwards find some fresh legs? He looked like he was struggling earlier, but I tell you what, he's supported by some really smart bike riders, and he's sitting in a really smart position at the moment. They're going to come through. It'll be a lap to go. It is Jones. He continues to drive the front, and he can drive it, don't worry. His time trialling capability is incredible for his age. It is Tom Jones, he's driving it, just making sure that nothing's going to get away. If it all stays together, Lionel Mordett, well, the tour is his, and this will be incredible. They'll be popping champagne left, right and centre at Informed Tonelli Racing. It's an incredible season they've had, and it was, well, it's going to get capped off in the perfect way if it can all stay together now. McCracken, I've picked him for the stage win. Let's see where he's sitting. McCracken, he's about 7 wheels back. He needs to move up. I don't know his experience. I just know he's sitting the bike well, and he looks like he's done barely a tap on the front this breakaway. Well, 1 lap to go. 1.8 kilometres to go for these riders. Who's going to win this stage and who's going to win this tour? I think too many of these guys, I think Angus Lyons and Dylan Sunderland, they're just happy with the podium. Here we go. Let's see what goes on. Harrison Bailey, he's got to be the quickest rider there, but does he time his sprint correctly? What can McCracken do? Can he make me look like a champion? Let's see. Don't know a lot about him. Brendan Davids, he's been at the back with his teammate Campbell Jones. They'll want to move up and make a move. Maybe they're looking for a long-range attack, but I tell you, they're going to want to move soon. Under a kilometre to go now. That's a kilometre to go, that corner. It's going to be interesting to see who can pull it off. So much representation here. Unfortunately for James Whelan, it all unfolded at about the halfway mark, just after the first intermediate sprint. And while Liam McGuinness, he's secured that jersey, and it won't be all in vain for James Whelan. He's secured the King of the Mountains jersey. But out in front, it looks like it's going to be Mordett to win the tour. But who will take out the stage? This corner's crucial for positioning. Who's done the launch here? The launch here from AMR Renault rider, the mountain biker, Ned Curvis. He's gone long. Neil Vanderbloek, it could be wrong. It could be Ned Curvis that takes it out today. He's got a pretty decent gap, I'll tell you. He's going full gas. He's sprinting to a line, but it's going to be hard. That last 150 metres, he'll hit the wind, and he'll come off the wheel. Well, we'll wait for them to come into the picture. Who's it going to be? 150 metres to go will tell us a lot about who's going to win this bike race. There's been a great ride by these riders out in front. Tasman Nankervis, he's gone long. He's still in front. They're just catching up to him. They're just catching up. He's stopped. Go on, son. Push on the pedals. Want it more than the rest. Who's it? It looks like it is Kavanagh. It's Kavanagh to take out the stage, I think. He's going to get there, holding on. Kavanagh from... No, Bailey. Bailey from Kavanagh. It is. GPM Stools have finished the year on a high. Their DS will be absolutely stoked. Well, Willow, there you go. You've really upped the game these last tours, and particularly since the Melbourne Awardable. GPM's been fantastic, and it's Harrison Bailey that's beaten the double. Kavanagh and Sunderland, both from the Nens Swiss. Brendan Davids in fourth. Angus Lyons fifth. McCracken sixth. Mordaunt, Edwards, Jones and Standish round out the top 10. So it looks like Mordaunt will take out the tour. Bailey the stage. An incredible stage to watch, and I thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time on the stream. Thanks to Let's Go Motorhomes.